We got our ACC questions, one question for each team. That's right, all 17 of them, because ACC Media Days starts today. This group is a group that might not want to be in the ACC for very long. These are the teams that, well, two of them are suing the league, and two other ones I think probably would like to get out if they could. But let's start with the Clemson Tigers, because they open with Georgia. My question for Clemson is actually very simple. I could ask it of the Tigers themselves. I could ask it of Coach Dabo Swinney. Is this it? Is this it? Are we done with this era of Clemson dominance, or can you bring it back? Because this feels like an inflection point right here. Like, can you turn it around? Because I think next year, when you can use athletic department money to pay players, that helps Clemson. That puts Clemson a little bit back in the game in terms of actually being able to use the transfer portal for players that can help. You heard Dabo Swinney earlier this year. Basically what he said is three kind of transfers. One, not good enough to help Clemson, which makes sense. They recruit really well out of high school. Two, somebody who's been tampered with, already knows where they're going, can't get them. Okay. Three, somebody who could help Clemson, but Clemson can't afford them because they're trying to use their NIL money to retain the really good players they already have. Now, if you have $10 to $15 million from the athletic department, which is what that number's probably going to be, you probably have money to spend on the occasional transfer portal guy. Now, you're still going to want to retain your best players. But this year, with nothing out of the transfer portal, can Clemson come back and be nationally relevant? We are going to find out probably week one where they stand. Because remember, 2021, they opened against Georgia, the Georgia team that won the national title. And that Clemson defense kept them in the game. Like, that was a really tight game. It wasn't the prettiest game, but it was very close. And Clemson was in it, but they couldn't offensively move the ball. They couldn't do what they needed to do to score. So, and again, this has been the problem. And it actually will lead into another question, and I think you know where I'm going with that one. But can Clemson ever be what it was in the heyday under Dabo again? The defense is still really good. Peter Wood's one of the best D linemen in the country. Barrett Carter, one of the best linebackers in the country. But the question is, can the offense be dynamic again? You know, this used to be a school that just pumped out great receivers. Those guys have not been there. Can TJ Moore, the freshman, can he be the next one? We'll find out. But that's what I want to know about Clemson. Is this it? Is this it? Or can you do this again? Can you resurrect it? Next question is for another school that is suing the ACC, and that's Florida State. Has a little Clemson flavor to it. Is DJU the guy to lead you to the playoff? That's right, DJ Uiagalelei, new starting quarterback at Florida State, former starting quarterback at Clemson, also spent last year at Oregon State. DJU is a guy who probably unfairly got loaded with these massive expectations because he replaced Trevor Lawrence as a freshman at Notre Dame during the game, during COVID, threw for 400 yards. They didn't win that game. They lost in overtime. But we just assume he's the next guy. NIL starts. He's getting commercials before anybody else. Everybody thought this was the next great Clemson quarterback. And, of course, Clemson had gone Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Now, there was a Kelly Bryant in between there. But the thought was this is the next great Clemson quarterback. And there were flashes, including his last game at Doak Campbell Stadium when he played against Florida State in 2022. But that's the big question, because I think Florida State has everything else it needs to win the ACC. This roster's really good. The pieces that they lost, they were able to replace pretty well through the transfer portal. I think you're going to really like Marvin Jones Jr. coming off the edge. He's got Patrick Payton on the other side, who's been there. D-line, they feel pretty good about. O-line, for once, finally, they're feeling pretty good about. But quarterback, remember, Jordan Travis was so important for them. He was so dynamic. He was such a good leader. I don't know that we fully appreciate the intangible pieces of what Jordan Travis brought. And so that's the challenge for DJU, is to come in and can he give Florida State those things? Not to mention the on-field piece of it. You know, this offense may look different. Jordan Travis, a little more of a scrambler. How does Florida State use DJU in the run game? Because he is useful in the run game. You're still talking about a 6'5", 240-pound dude. So in short yardage, you can do some stuff with him. But we've not seen him reach what we think is his ceiling yet. Can Mike Norvell get him to his ceiling? So that's the question. I got to tell you about Game Time. Do you want to go to some of these games that we're talking about? That SMU Florida State game in Dallas, you can do that. Here's a good one. NC State playing Tennessee in Charlotte in the Dukes Mayo Classic early in the season. That is a big-time game for the ACC. The ACC would love a win in that game. Now, obviously, the ACC and the SEC have plenty of games they play at the end of the season, but this is one where NC State could plant the flag for the ACC against a team I think that's going to be very good in the SEC. Tennessee, obviously, Nico Iamaleava. I'm getting it. Nico Iamaleava. That's going to be his first big test against that NC State defense. So that'll be a fun one. Maybe you want to go see Clemson play against Florida State. Maybe you want to see DJU against his old team in Tallahassee. You can get tickets for that on Game Time as well. With Game Time, you just search for your event. You see a list of potential tickets. You click it. You're just looking at where you would be sitting in the stadium. You know exactly where you'd be sitting. The price is the price. A couple more taps. Those tickets are yours. They're easily transferable on game day. And they have tickets to everything. If I want to go see Chris Stapleton this summer, I just grab my Game Time app. Where's he playing? Tap, tap, tap. Tickets are mine. Easy, easy, easy. Football games, any other sporting event, concerts, comedy shows. They have tickets to everything on Game Time. And use the code STAPLES, you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Our next question, Florida State's rival Miami. Can the steak finally match the sizzle? Since Mario Cristobal got there, he has been upgrading the roster. This is the best roster he's had there. This is very similar to the Oregon rosters when Mario Cristobal was competing for Pac-12 titles at Oregon. Very similar. He's built on the lines of scrimmage through high school recruiting. He is built through the skill positions through the transfer portal. This team is loaded. But can Mario Cristobal coach it on the field well enough to compete for the ACC title, to potentially make a college football playoff appearance? We're going to find out. And we're going to find out pretty early because they're going to Gainesville for game one. They're playing a desperate Florida team that needs a win. Like, Florida needs to beat Miami. Billy Napier needs that win. But Mario Cristobal needs that win as well. This is one of those where the fan base of the losing team is going to melt down after the game. Miami is a slight favorite, even though it'll be a tough road environment, because Miami's roster is, like I said, loaded. You got Cam Ward coming in from Washington State. You got Damian Martinez coming in from Oregon State. This is going to be a good team if Mario Cristobal can get out of his own way. A lot of times he's too conservative. Sometimes he won't take a knee. All of that needs to get corrected. If it can be, then we're talking about a team that not only can win the ACC, but should actually be competitive against a lot of the teams that you'd see in the playoff. But we haven't seen that yet. We have not seen that yet on the field. We're going to find out. Week 1, we should have a pretty good idea of what's going on with Miami. Now, their schedule, they're still going to win a bunch of games no matter what. But can they be the team they expect to be? Let's see how they perform against Florida. I think that'll give us a good litmus test there. One more. This is one they have not sued the ACC, but they would be a very hot commodity if the ACC schools became free agents. That's North Carolina. And my question is this. You're sandbagging on us, aren't you, Mac Brown? I think this team could be pretty good. I think there's a chance this team could be better than the Drake May-led team last year. I think part of the reason I'm very excited about this team, new leadership on defense. They bring in Jeff Collins as defensive coordinator. Say what you will about Jeff Collins as the Georgia Tech head coach. I realize it didn't go well. But Jeff Collins has been very good everywhere he has run defenses. And he has run defenses in places where they have incredible competition game in, game out. Mississippi State playing in the old SEC West. Florida had to play against some really good teams. And Jeff Collins' defense were dominant at Florida. He takes over a group. Kamen Rucker's back. You saw him on the show last year. Great edge rusher. Like they're not bad personnel-wise on defense. They've got dudes. Offensively, it's going to be Max Johnson or Connor Harrell at QB, but Omarion Hampton is back. And remember, I asked, is Jade Knott the best back in the ACC? If it's not Jade Knott, it's Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton is spectacular. I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on the Tar Heels. It's one of those things like when you have the highly hyped quarterback, the highly drafted quarterback, and he leaves, and you think, okay, that's it. No, I do think they could be as good or better than last year. The offensive line needs to improve for sure. But I think the defense is going to definitely be better. And you look at the schedule, it's awfully manageable. Awfully manageable. We'll find out. They're going to Minnesota week 1. Cannot wait to see the Tar Heels. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.